are we up to now?
We're up to about 50, so maybe we can start.
Yeah. Okay, again, can you see that presentation right?
Yeah, yes, yeah, we can.
It's just, it's that what I did last time, I turned off. Hopefully right now. Okay, shall we, so are we recording? Shalom? Yes, we are
Yes,
recording.
we are, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, so you are. Okay, that's great. So I welcome everyone here. First off, if you come for the answers, then we're suggesting to now. We've probably got more questions than that, as we're not quite sure what's going on. Presentation this morning, going through the main things. So, what the 1st of October stuff. So, if I can see whether my slides are going to work. Here we go. Oh, sorry, the mouse hadn't loaded for some reason. Okay, so I'm just kicking off today. Just one of my most favourite quotes from Donald Rumsfeld, as probably all know, I love my quotes. There's things that we know, so we know what's in there. They're the known unknowns. So there's things that are coming up that we're sort of starting to hear about that we can touch on today, but also there's the unknown unknown. So we don't really know what turning on the stuff that we're going to talk about today is going to have on practices, which is why the GPC want you to prioritise looking after your teams above anything else. So change the 1st of October. These are what's written out. So from 1st of October, you've got to turn on GP Connect. You've got to turn on your access to all comers. And then you've also got to be displaying you and your general practice. So just take those one at a time. Interestingly, in repeated bits of correspondence, give these things as their key requirements. So it's the online your practice and GP Connect. So as you can see, actually, in terms of access, they're saying that they're only okay. So GP Connect, taking that first, this is the update.
Grant, guys are having trouble hearing you because you keep breaking up. You've gone completely silent now. Try again.
How about that?
Yeah, you're still breaking up.
We know.
Yeah, still struggling, still breaking up. Maybe everybody mute yourselves. Let's try that if everyone's muted.
I think everybody's muted, Fari.
Oh, okay, fine. Try again, Grant.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, go for it.
That's better. Okay, I'm just going to try one more change. Is it better like this?
Yeah, can hear you now.
You
Definitely
can hear me
hear
now.
you.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I've
yeah.
changed the. For some reason I've got 4 microphones available. Anyway, so GP Connect. So first thing is that joint GP IT committee have concluded that the system is unsafe because of the way that it works. We already know that there's been patient safety issues with this specific software, likely erroneously recording patients as being pregnant when they weren't. Those of you that follow the newsletter will know that we've had many other local examples of outside bodies writing erroneous data to GP records, affecting both data integrity, but also adversely affecting patient safety. So the Joint GP IT Committee, which is a joint committee between the BMA and the Royal College of GPs, which was set up at the request of the Department of Health in 2004 to be the single authoritative body on GP IT issues. That's declaration of interest. I have chaired it before. Last time 2018, it's a long time ago. But they're saying that the implementations have looked at it and actually say that the way that the GP Connect is set up at the moment is not safe. Okay, that's the first issue. Now, moving on to access. Now, this is what it actually says in the contract. Practice must take steps to ensure that all of the following means of contacting contractor are available for patients throughout core hours. Interestingly, it says by attending the contractor's practice premises by telephone and through the practice online consultation tool. It then goes on to say that patients must respond if the contact is made outside core hours, during the following core hours, or in any other case during the day in which the core hours fall. So basically, in theory, what it says is that if you get someone contact you at 6:29, you actually have to respond that day. Now, the response doesn't mean an appointment. The response just means a response. So that can be saying, you get an appointment tomorrow or in a month's time, or we could put you on a waiting list. It can be you need to go and talk to your pharmacist. It can be you need to go straight to ED. Now, this is supposedly for routine work. This is not supposed to be for urgent work. And Accurix, which I presume was probably what we're most using, has been working hard to try and have a change from the 1st of October, which will help practices to do this more safely. Just coming back to, it says attending the contractor's practice premises. It says attending, so it doesn't mean entering. It doesn't say entering. It doesn't say coming into the premises. It doesn't say on the premises. It just say attending. So I mean, I suggest that you read the GPC guidance, which is a bit tortuous because that guidance has been written with legal advice. But does this mean just having a letterbox open that you then read what's being put through it? Because that's allowing a patient to attend. Does it mean to have a video door phone on the front door? Or can it actually just be, that there's a notice up when you get to the door saying, phone this number if you need our help, and then that can go through to any other sort of phone line as long as it's someone that can respond. Okay, so this is sort of like this is a known unknown really. So GPC England's response is there's 2 things. So requiring access at premises throughout core, that was not in the letter to the profession, which outlined the contract changes. So that feels to a lot of us like it's something extra that NHS England has sneaked in. But again, coming back to actually, they don't see this being a key requirement for the 1st of October. And then the second more important thing is that GPC had an agreement with the NHSE that safeguards would be agreed in advance of implementation. This is mainly of the online consultation tool. but that has not been fulfilled. So this is why GPCE feel that there has been a breach. And this is just my feeling, and for quite a long time, but it gets more and more the more we get changes we get, and other people that were really, we are sacrificing continuity and quality of care purely for access. So we're putting access above everything else. It doesn't matter about the quality. It doesn't, fill the quality, not the width. It doesn't matter as long as we're getting people down that motorway. It doesn't matter if they then crash at the end or they find the road goes to a completely wrong place that they didn't want to go to, as long as we're doing it. You and your general practice. So I'm sorry, the practice mustn't pout, but they must put a link on their website. But you'll have noticed that in our newsletters, past them, that we have included that practice perhaps ought to put a caveat on that, just to say that basically you will plan to do this as and when you can. There is a feeling that the way it's worded implies to patients that they'll get that the promise is that they get an appointment on the day that they contact the practice, but that is not what it says, and that's not true. The offer is that they'll get a response on the day that they contact you. So this is the news as from last Thursday, that the GPC has decided that from the 1st of October, the profession will be back in dispute with the government, with the Department of Health and with NHS England. As it says there, so 2 motions were passed and says, and resolves with the GREC to enter into dispute with government, DHSC and NHS England on the 1st of October 2025. And then the second one is just sort of bolstering up and saying that that they're requiring everything to be put in place and options really to the November GPC England. Now I realise you're thinking, well, this is after October. What happens before then? Well, let's move on to what does happen. So what does this mean? Okay, so GPC to contact Right Honourable Wester Streeting. So I obviously didn't double check these slides. I'd say that they were still drying when we started this this meeting. The link was still drying. So to contact Right Honourable Wester Streeting and NHS England. So actually immediately after the GPC England meeting, Katie Bramall had a phone call with Wes, which lasted, we're told, for 15 minutes. During which she explained the position of the GPCE and why. So Wes has got the option then of actually saying, actually, we'll go back, we'll look at what was actually agreed, and we'll say, we'll put it on the back burner, which of course, all they can do by just changing the guidance. So they can change the guidance, say, although this needs to be placed by 1st of October, realise that not everywhere will be able to do it safely by then, and therefore, call upon NHS England and ITBs not to actually be overly enthusiastically about implementing it. If no safeguards appear, the next step GPC is that they will explore legal action. This is because of the breach of the agreement. This was the agreement about the safeguarding. So the next step is that they will see whether the BMA can take legal action against the Department of Health and GPs and the NHS England to enforce them to actually agree for safeguards to be put in place. If that's not possible, it's blocked, because even if it's successful, of course, the government, being the government, can of course just change the law and then unblock the position again, which they're quite happy to do when it suits them. If that doesn't happen, then if supported, GPC will provide suggestions for possible action. And by supported, the GPs will be balloted. And then if that ballot says that GPs as a group support the suggestion, they will then move to industrial action or some collective action because it's difficult, because obviously we're contractors to have industrial action. But the GPC will, like with the previous collective action, will then come back to LMCs and practices, say this is what we're suggesting that you can do locally to put pressure on the system to make a change. So what should practices do now as of today? First thing, don't panic. Okay. Second thing, first thing is read the GPC England guidance. So it is rather long and tortuous. I don't plan to go through that line by line now, but read it and try and understand it. Understand and think about where you are now. Think about what you need to be doing in respect to that guidance, and then discuss in your practice how to implement it. So put together a plan of how you would go about doing this. And include in that plan, as we've put in the newsletter for this month, include in that plan what to do if you hit a position where you start to be unsafe. So what do you do if you've hit capacity? Because in no way should this force practices to go back to unsafe working. Okay, so if you hit capacity or if you otherwise are going to be unsafe, you've got staff who've gone off on leave, you've had something happen within the practice, you've got a sudden surge of demand, turn it off. Report via OPEL to the ICB, but turn it off. And the other thing is, do not panic. If by the 1st of October you are not ready to implement this, as long as you're working towards it, I don't think anyone could fairly say that you're in breach, particularly as we actually weren't sent the formal notice by the ICB until the 2nd of September. Remember, they had that for a month by then, but only 2nd of September that the ICB got round to sending it to practice. So to expect practice to massively, completely change around the way that you provide services within a month is just inappropriate. And I cannot see anyone, including NHS resolutions, if the ICB were to challenge you to get that far. And do remember that if the ICB are minded that they're going to serve breach notices, it's a very slow process. First off, they've got to go and talk to the LMC. Okay, they're required to do that. Then they're required to meet you. They're required to discuss it, and then they have to consult with the LMC about that meeting. If it's one that there will be an outcome which can threaten in any way, shape, or form your contract, and then they serve it on you, and then they do serve it on you. Then have got time to respond to it. You get a month to respond to actually just to think about what they sent you, and they've got a month to implement it. So, it's a slow process. So do not panic. And if the ICB, or NHS England, or anyone come trying to force you to do something which you feel is unsafe, is inappropriate, ask the LMC. We are there to support and help you. And if you're BMA members, obviously also ask your trade union, the BMA. And as I say, most important, prioritise patient, staff, and practice safety above everything else. Whistle-stop tour of what you're supposed to do from the 1st of October. Now, this session I presumed was going to be mainly about questions, because I'm sure probably someone's got one or two. So far away, I just need to lose something. And Frin has helpfully put in there into the chat the GBC England to focus on documents, and it's really important to read those. I can't see a single hand. Does that mean you're all very happy? Wow. Oh, yes, we have. Abbas, you turned up late, so probably something which happened before you came.
Thank you. No, it was just a very quick one that I presume at some point, regardless of collective action, that this will be implemented. I presume the LMC will give us guidance when it's right to implement it, and what the general consensus is of various softwares to use and so on.
Okay. Yeah, in terms of software, of course, it's sort of up to practices, but it's also up to what the ICB wishes to procure. The Accurix looks as good as any other. So probably I suspect that most practices want to stay with that unless some other bit of software appears. And if it's much better, then we would obviously be asking practices to put pressure on the ITB to change. But because they're funding the software, I mean, you can obviously you can go off and purchase your own as long as it does the job. But yes, you can do that. Let me stop sharing because you're probably just looking at an owl at the moment. Come on. Okay. Any other questions? Don't be shy.
There's a question about DHU covering us between 6 to 6:30. Are we still allowed to use this service?
Okay, so the GPC England view is that if you've got written agreement from the ICB that you can subcontract for that half hour, then just continue to do it, because there's nothing in these regulations which change the subcontracting. There might be an issue if you haven't done it before and you wish to now subcontract for some hours. Again, you know, the subcontracting is still in there, and you still just have to advise the ICB that you're doing it, but the ICB might come back with you to you with different questions in the future. So make sure you have dug out your written agreement and keep it. And for GOPI, exactly the same as we're just talking about. You know, you are contracting for that time. At the moment, the ICB facilitates that. If you're talking about PLTs, if you want to change close for another half day, again, it's that. But just remember, the only thing that you need to do differently, because if you're subcontracting out, someone is taking your phone calls. So it's only about people turning up to the practice. So you might have to have someone who, at some point during that afternoon, looks at the what's been dropped through the letterbox and just goes through it. Okay.
I think there's also just a follow-on from that, a question from Gopi about what happens to practices that
That's what I just replied to.
half a day. Yeah.
That's what I just replied to. Yeah. Okay.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So we've got Philippa Guy.
Yeah, hi Grant. Just a quick question about GP Connect. Obviously at the beginning you said of the concerns just about the safety of that. So is the recommendation from the LMC then that we do have to enable it, but just be aware of any concerns that we see afterwards and report them?
Okay, my recommendation would be don't turn it on to the 1st of October. So wait to see whether we get anything else out from GPC England. So the Joint Committee have recently written to the department regarding their concerns about the safety aspect. If they say, well, you've got to go ahead regardless, and we're not interested in patient safety, that would be an interesting position for us to be in. So it's at the moment, it's be ready to turn it on the 1st of October. Don't do it beforehand. And we're going to be waiting to see what else comes out from GPC England before then.
Okay, thank you.
There's another one in the chat. Does the EQRX message that the patient request will be triaged within a set time frame meet the standards of dealing with the patient request?
So from what I understand is that the AccuRx are changing their messages and the way that it's laid out from the 1st of October. There is I saw a screenshot yesterday. I should have actually grabbed it and put it on the presentation, but I forgot to do that. And so they change it, and what they change it to from 1st of October does meet the standards. Just remember that this is for non-urgent stuff, because one of the safety issues that we've got is what happens if a patient ticks all the boxes to say it's non-urgent and then puts in the free text bit. I've been having this sort of pain in the left-hand side of my chest for the last half an hour, feel out of breath and that sort of stuff. We don't know. That's one of the reasons why GPC England is concerned, and that's why they feel that there should have been more safeguards put into this in the first place. And just sort of expanding on that, on what's coming, as those of you that came to the last AGM, what I've heard Samira Anand say then, and this is what we're still saying, is that, you know, as they push access further and further, regardless of patient safety and regardless of other concerns, then we feel, the LMC feels, and GPC England very much feels that practice are going to end up having to have waiting lists. Okay, that's not of our own doing, but practice cannot keep safely expanding those lanes for more and more cars to go down. So at some point you actually got to say you can have a bit of a car park at the beginning. And that's okay to do, you know, as long as you've triaged firsthand to make sure nothing is urgent. And of course, the other important thing about triage is diverting stuff that shouldn't be coming to you or doesn't have to be coming to you elsewhere. Then just saying, you know, you'll be put on the waiting list and we'll tell you when we've got appointments available. I mean, I know that practices now are putting are offering patients appointments 4 to 6 weeks in advance. And also know that most practices already have waiting lists, at least for some things like minor surgery. So this is not something that practices aren't already doing. This is an expansion of what practice is already doing. Vicky.
Hi, Grant. Do you see in the future? I've got an IT manager. I'm too old to be keeping up with all of this. But do you see in the future that Accurex, System 1, AirMid, GP Connect, all of these things that we're trying to handle all come together at any time and we'll be told, use this, that will cover it all?
Okay, I can tell you where the thinking is. So as you probably know, that at the moment the central contract is called GPIT Futures, and that basically is a list of approved software, and then that software is called down by the ICB, whoever's made the decision, to be used locally. Now that GPIT Futures actually ran out. I'm still sharing. That GPIT Futures, actually, the contract ran out more than 2 years ago now, and it hasn't been replaced. But what they're looking at is having what they want is interoperable solutions. So they want sort of different bits of software for what the provider can choose which bit that they want from the catalogue. That's a central's view, whether they get that or not. I'm sure that as time goes by, as what's happened with other software development, we'll see some of these things sort of end up in the core software. I mean, the core software doesn't have to have an appointment book, but obviously they all do. System 1 has recently produced their what they called TBP Automate. I realise that they've now changed their name to Auto Review. So that they've now invented that because they could see other bits of software, standalone software is available. So they've put. So I think over time it will probably help. Coming back to IT, it is becoming really confusing. It is becoming difficult. We know that practices struggle to keep up with things like DPIA. I won't ask because it would be too embarrassing whether anyone has actually got well, I know that some practices got risk registers before Sarah puts her hand up, but I don't think anyone's actually is meeting the DCB 0160 standard. I expect most practices don't even know what that is. You know, that's a legal requirement to do. But I think it's impossible for practices to do at a local level. And my view, and this is what we're putting forward to hopefully to be policy from our LMC to the GPC, is that really this stuff should be done across the board. So with all of these approved software, they should really come to you with a draft DPIA framework, with a draft DCB 0160 for practices just to modify for their own use and to be able to use it. And obviously patient notices and things like that. That really ought to be done as being part of the workup. Personally, I think that should be a requirement on the system suppliers before they get approval, and that's sort of what I'm feeding back. But although I'm still sit on the RCGP HIG group, and I'm still sort of slightly active as a informatician. I'm not doing the national stuff as I was before. But yes, so the vision is always about interoperability rather than having one system. But this stuff should talk together, and there should be much more central support. Any other questions? Do you think that ICB and HSE will be actively enforcing monitoring these changes? Well, of course, this comes down to what does the centre want. And if Wes said to the NHS England at the moment, actually, don't push on the access bits. We know actually that NHS England is saying to ICBs, look out for you and your GP, because that's dead easy for them to check. And that's really binary. They can check on your website and make sure they've got it on there. So all practices, please put that on. Please put a link to the you and your GP website on your website. Put that link on. We know that's going to be, but actually that stuff is harder for them to implement, but for them to check up on. So it will depend upon how much pressure is put from centre. And remember, the ICB has got to slim down by 50% of their managers by April. So are they going to have anyone there actually to even check whether you've got the lights on, let alone whether you're doing all the stuff? I don't know, but I'm hoping that Wes Streeting will see the light, and he will say to the system, light touch for the time being, and we get it sorted out. Any other questions? Well, we thought that we inundated with, oh, you're just shocked, so shell shocked you don't know what to do. I mean, from ongoing, obviously from the LMC, we will put out information as and when we have it. I expect every newsletter will include updates on where this is going. The newsletter got a bit delayed, but has come out this morning. Do look through that, and that's got embedded in it the links to the GPC focus on documents, as well as also Katie Bramall has done it's a really quick 2-minute explanation as to what's gone wrong with the contract and what they're looking for. So that's worth a listen if you are not sure. Okay, do we have any other questions? And I've got nothing new in the chat. I've got nothing new going. Gone. Oh. If that's it, we'll wind up and you have another hour and a half of your lives back. But if you do have any questions, please do send it to inquiries at lmc.co.uk, the new email route, again, that's embedded in the newsletter, and Charlotte will give you all the answers. Okay, well, I thank you all for coming. And this will be evolving, so do watch this space, and I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you. Bye.